Now on Mackey and Judd,
This chart makes it as clear as I can to you.
the pie chart of blame.
You want to blame somebody?
Vikings lose to a winless Falcons team that clearly had a pep in its step after firing Dan Quinn last week and dropped to 1-5 on the season going into the bye week. Kirk Cousins throws 3 interceptions in the first half, the only time in his career he's ever done that in the first half. Let's just go right into the pie chart of blame. Judd Zulgad, slice us your pie.
This was a disgusting performance. This was absolutely grotesque. My pie chart of blame, only 3 pizzas. Not worth more. It's not worth an effort that the Vikings didn't give for me to try and divvy up too much pie.
Plus, you know what? We just did
This is easy.
40 great minutes on, I don't know about great, but we did 40 minutes of tribute on Sid Hartman. So,
All right, I'll start from the bottom and work my way up, but keep in mind, it's just 3 pieces. The defense I'm going to give 10% to. The defense was not good. The defense is a work in progress. Some parts just stink. Some parts one would hope will improve. You thought you had seen improvement, I think, in Seattle and Houston, certainly. And there was a definite step back taken. So the defense, 10%, move on. 20% goes to Zim. This team was not prepared. I mean, they have the Seahawks game. You came away and said, yeah, it's a loss, but there's good things here. I could get my head around justifying, as tough as the Seahawks loss was, I could sort of justify things about that game, and there was good. And this is not this is not a very good team. The Vikings aren't. So I could be positive about that. This game, man, yeah, the Falcons had a pep in their step from Morris being their interim coach. I understand all of that, but you're at home. I know there's not fans aside from the 250 that they had in the stadium, who, by the way, should have been allowed to boo. But that was really bad. That was an unprepared team. And it was a team that eventually, that at some point in time, pretty early on, actually looked like it quit on the coach. And so I've got to give 20%, which is still not a ton, to Mike Zimmer. And that's because I'm saving 70% for the guy who deserves it. Kirk Cousins, this loss starts with you. It's on you. You were awful. You padded your stats. You got up post-game and talked about, if I continue to throw picks like this, I'll be benched, which is nonsense. It's BS, and you know it, because the Vikings don't have the guts to get a backup quarterback who they think can replace you because you're so soft to start with. Everything about you is disgusting. I was disgusted by your effort. You were a complete joke when your team, and by the way, too, let's go back to the third quarter in Seattle when your team needed you to calm things down, and you couldn't even do that. Instead, you went completely freaked out and threw a terrible pick. Every time you screw up, we're like your parents. Well, it's not Kirk's fault. His friend Johnny gave him the weed. Well, guess what? Kirk smoked the weed, and that is Kirk's fault. 70% goes to a gutless effort that's padded in a box score. And the only thing that bugs me is that you weren't yanked at halftime, so you had to eat those stats and accept how crappy you were. Instead, you're left in to pad your stats like you always are because everyone's coddling your ass. You don't deserve it.
Hey, you held him to 20 points, man. You gave us a chance at the end. But I got 3 words for you. You like that?
Bravo, Judd Zulgad.
Disgusting.
Take a bow.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take a bow.
Wow.
A lot of pent-up anger here.
All right, Declan, you want to give us your pie chart of blame here?
Sure. I'll be pretty quick here.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
I'm same with Judd. I give 70% of the blame to Kirky Cousins for that performance yesterday. Just embarrassing. I mean, the first play of the game, the pick, I was sitting down, drinking a mimosa, right after my Corona hard seltzers. And I said, all right, as long as we don't screw up, I was with a buddy. I said, as long as we don't screw up here, I think we're going to be okay. First play of the game, interception. Just like so on brand. Just are you kidding me? So 70% of the blame to Kirk Cousins and the garbage time stats. Yeah, I think I looked it up yesterday. His performance against the Colts in week 2 is his worst performance from a passer rating standpoint in his career as a starter. So that did happen. But this one I think was even worse than that. Because from the get-go, it just was off the rails. So 70% of the blame going to Kirk Cousins. 10% of the blame for not having Dalvin Cook and your running game being completely non-existent. I think all of us went into this game saying, all right, what are we confident? Yes. Are they going to miss Dalvin Cook? Is he a dynamic player? Of course. But Alexander Madison's a capable back. This should be okay. You should still be able to run up the middle against the Falcons. You couldn't at all. And it was very frustrating watching Alexander Madison getting stuffed, Mike Boone getting stuffed, and just the usage of both of them in general was really confusing to me. And now Zimmer is doubling down. We didn't run the football enough yesterday. I'm seeing post-game comments and comments today about it. That's really frustrating. So 10% of the blame goes there. Also, 10% of the blame goes to Mike Zimmer for that exact philosophy I just talked about. So that's up to 90% of the pie. And then the final 10% goes the offensive line. And I know it's easy to blame the offensive line and be like, well, it's also Kirk Cousins too. But they allowed 16 pressures yesterday. 16, and it was a collection. It wasn't just, Ezra Cleveland's having a rough debut, or Garrett Bradbury finally came down to earth after a strong season. All of them played very poorly, multiple pressures allowed. So again, my pie chart of blame, 70% to Kirk Cousins, 10% for not having any semblance of a running game, 10% to Mike Zimmer, and 10% to the offensive line.
And just a quick, for the record here, just a quick amendment to what you said.
Okay.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
So 16 pressures according to Pro Football Focus. They did pin 3 pressures on Kirk Cousins, either holding the ball too long or walking his way into pressure on his own.
Got it.
So 13 offensive line pressures allowed. Of those 13, the guards, Ezra Cleveland and Dakota Dozier allowed 9 combined pressures of those 13. Ezra Cleveland was great on the first interception of the game. If you guys watch that back, he was a brick wall, baby. No excuses on that one, but then he allowed 5 pressures later on. All right.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
I've got 2 pieces of pie. That's it for this game. There will be other times in future games to give out more pieces of pie. And so I don't want anyone to think that because I am withholding pie from certain parties, that those parties aren't also in my mind, okay? Like Mike Zimmer does not get a piece of pie this week. Okay. It doesn't mean that he's doing a great job coaching. I just feel like this week it's important to emphasize 2 specific pieces of pie, okay? Right. The first piece of pie, 5%. Just a little taste. Little taste, okay? And it's for Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers. Because if they beat the Falcons last week, or I'm sorry, if they don't beat the Falcons last week,
right?
If the Falcons get their first win of the season against a Panthers team, Dan Quinn doesn't get fired. And if Dan Quinn doesn't get fired, the Falcons probably play like zombies in this game against the Vikings. And then he gets fired because the Vikings beat them.
Okay.
But because I've got the stat here, including this game yesterday, since 2010, teams that fire coaches mid-season are now 13-8 the week after said firing.
Okay.
And those are like well under 500 teams that are garbage enough to fire a coach. And those teams are now 13-8 the week after firing a coach. So if Teddy Bridgewater and the Carolina Panthers had laid down like they were supposed to against the Falcons, Dan Quinn doesn't get fired until this week, which leaves 95% of my pie.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
For Kirk Cousins. Why are you guys so hard on Kirk Cousins? Like, I feel like we hear that all the time. You guys light up Kirk Cousins every week, but why didn't you talk about Ezra Cleveland? All right, let's talk about both. Ezra Cleveland was garbage in this game. All right. We could do a pie chart like of why he's playing right guard and not left tackle or left guard, but that's a conversation for later this week. Ezra Cleveland was garbage, okay? Kirk Cousins on the first bleeping play of the game. A play on which Ezra Cleveland was great. Watch it again. Watch the entire offensive line on that first play. It's the brick wall that we all wanted. For years, we've wanted that brick wall on the first play of the game against a bad team at home. Give Kirk a clean pocket. Watch him drop back and throw darts all over the field like he's Joe Montana. You guys don't appreciate Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
All you guys do is rip on him. Give him an offensive line and see what happens. The offensive line forms a perfectly manicured brick wall to start the game. And Kirk Cousins throws an interception right to a linebacker. What are you doing? You guys practiced all week long. You guys lost close games to undefeated teams. It's time to take back what's yours and get on the right track and beat a winless Falcons team. And this bum throws a pick with a perfect pocket to a linebacker to start the game. It's one thing if you're never going to elevate your teammates when they need it. It's one thing if you can't overcome adverse circumstances and unclean pockets. It's another thing if you just actively shipwreck a game out of the gate like he did in the first quarter yesterday. So while there will be time to divvy up other chunks of pie, Kirk Cousins for yesterday gets 95% of my pie chart of blame.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
It's time the excuses stop.
Why don't you give an offensive line? Why don't you blame the offensive line? Go watch that first play yesterday.
Well, and
seriously,
he's paid to elevate the entire team. That's what he's paid for. Like if I'm going to go down the path of, you know what, you're right, then I need him to give me back money to spend on other players. But if you're going to take that contract, you have to take that. That's the thing is, in a big sports town, they would look at the reality of, if you're making as much as Kirk is making, you are paid to win games if you have to, single-handedly. And Kirk in the first half submarined that entire game and that entire team, and he got a 2-year, $66 million extension, not to submarine his team. So I'm so tired of the defenders. What are you getting at? Like, what's your point? Look at his contract. You're wrong. He's paid so much that he has to single-handedly win games if that's what it takes. And by the way, Justin Jefferson gives you a chance to do exactly that. Okay?
Yeah. Dude, like, what are you defending anymore? Like, what? Why would you even want to defend it? Why would you even want to defend it? What is the point? It is what it is at this point.
But they're going to the air. Off the play, fake, and it's intercepted right off the bat by Deion Jones.
The reality is, if the pace, that I'm on in terms of the interceptions, if that were to continue, I won't finish the season. I won't, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit of, you got to improve, whether it's them telling me, hey, we got to improve, or them pulling me. You got to get better, and that'll be what the rest of the season will be about for me.
That is such garbage. When Sean Mannion, they're never going to lift you. You know that too. Like what he said is just a lie. He's lying to himself. He knows he won't be lifted. That's the maddening thing. Like, he's basically saying, if I don't do my job, I'm going to be fired, full well knowing they'll never fire him.
It's a little bit like,
it's nonsense.
Like the Terry Ryan agreement. Remember when Terry Ryan had the lifetime contract?
Yes.
I love Terry Ryan. I don't know why I just compared him to Kirk Cousins. He's much better at his job.
But Kirk Cousins,
for a long time than Kirk Cousins was.
But what Kirk's saying there is a non-factor because he knows it's nonsense.
Yeah. You know what though? This might only appeal to a small chunk of Vikings fans. It's the first time we've even been able to do this. We're a month and a half into the regular season, but the Vikings are off to a terrible start, one of their worst starts in recent history. The only thing that can make you feel a little bit better is some good old-fashioned Packer vent line.
Oh. Go, Pack, go! This is the difference between the Packers and the Chiefs. The Chiefs have a high-flying offense. A guy like Le'Veon Bell gets released, and they sign him. They sign him because they're trying to win another Super Bowl after just come back. And you just don't see that from the Packers. And I'm sorry, been a Packer fan my whole life, and I'm just tired of seeing it. When is going to be the right time when we do something to upgrade this team to say to the players in the locker room that we're trying to win this whole damn thing?
Go, Pack, go! Courtesy of our friends on the Green and Gold postgame show on the Fan of Milwaukee.
I'm so glad it's back.
They're 5-0 going into that game.
Did you guys watch any of that Packers-Bucks game yesterday thinking, as the Packers were just getting their asses kicked, thinking, man, if only they had Le'Veon Bell right now. If only they had Le'Veon Bell.
Not Aaron Jones, one of the best backs in the league, but we need Lev Bell.
I love this.
Go, Pack, go!
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Gary kind of stole my thunder about staring down Aaron Rodgers, staring down Adams. I want to go back to Adams' tweet last week before the bye. Oh, I know my body more than the trainers. He deleted the tweet. Now, after the bye, 2 weeks, Adams and Aaron Rodgers are probably talking, and it seems like Aaron Rodgers threw out the game plan and wanted to get Adams the ball, no matter what. Because, Adams is a big star. We're going back. Aaron Rodgers proved me wrong because he played within the system the last 4 weeks. He gets a star receiver back, and he's targeting him, staring him down. He's not playing in Matt LaFleur's system. And I would like your comments because I don't know much.
Go, Pack, go!
I don't really know much, so if you just
Comment
just
on
give me
that.
your comments.
But I'll tell
It's
you that
super
he's not
helpful.
playing. This is one loss. One loss.
One loss.
Hey, pal, what's up? Man, I can't even think of the words that I want to say. I can't say them on the air, man. It feels like last year all over again. We get our butts kicked by the Chargers last year. We go into San Fran, and they annihilate us. And now, you mean to tell me we had to wait 2 weeks for this bad effort that they put out there today? There was no misdirection. There was no deception on offense, nothing. It was just vanilla.
I love bringing up the Chargers game from last year, like a meaningless regular season
Super
loss
random.
to the Chargers, because we have to put that in the context of where
They
we're
never
at.
forget.
Yeah,
Caller 2 is the best so far, though.
yeah, that was pretty good.
I will break down the entire thing, but I know nothing.
I don't really know anything. If you guys could just help me here, I'm drunk.
Hey, man, listen, it's losses that you can overcome in the season, and it's losses that just, big steps backwards. I think this was a big step backwards.
It's over.
Listen to the depression in the voices, too. They're 4-1, but the voices sound like they are probably 1-4.
I got one more for you.
Like this, because all this does is reaffirm that. Remember when I was saying about when are they going to play a physical defense or a defense that we can get a better barometer of this team? Well, they met a physical defense today. Just like I said, what happened? Just like last year, San Francisco beat the brakes off them early. We said, well, it's an early season game. They'll shake it off. But what happened? We met San Francisco NFC Championship, and it was like a replay. The same type of performance. At some point, it comes down to the talent.
Poor guys.
I know nothing, but the state of mind of the starting quarterback was this.